Alright, let's take a couple of minutes and we'll talk about some miscellaneous antibacterial drugs. These include isoniazid, which is used with rifampicin, also known as rifampin, in the treatment of tuberculosis. And this drug specifically is a anti-TB drug, isoniazid, so keep that in mind. TB is actually kind of coming back, and it has caused major problems throughout the world in the past. So, we have the oxoazolidinones, which is a new class of antibacterial drugs. They inhibit the initiation of protein synthesis. Example is linezolid, or linezolid, depending on who you speak to, but it is great for treating MRSA. We have the fluoroquinolones, which are broad spectrum, quite potent. These, if you're taking a shotgun effect and want to try to just kill it, fluoroquinolones are a choice. We have norfloxacin, ciprofloxacin, which are used for urinary tract infections and STDs, GI problems, osteomyelitis, respiratory, and some soft skin infections. We have sparofloxacin and levofloxacin, which are used to treat pneumonia, bronchitis, and sinusitis. We also have antifungal drugs, and among these are macrolide polyenes, which include amphotericin B. This mimics lipids. It is versatile and effective. It is used for both topical and systemic treatments. We also have nystatin, which is a topical treatment, and I think we're generally familiar with nystatin. There's griseofulvin, which is used for stubborn cases of dermatophyte infections. If you have something that is not going to be treated well topically, for instance with nystatin, then you're going to have to go with something like griseofulvin. They generally don't like to do systemic treatment of fungi or fungal infections. Particularly this one is nephrotoxic, so you're not going to want to give this to someone who has kidney problems. We have synthetic azoles, which are broad spectrum. Ketoconazole, chlorotrimazole, miconazole. Probably heard of these in terms of sprays that can be used against athlete's foot or jock itch. Miconazole, particularly clotrimazole, you can read the cans and they will have those on there. We've got flucytosine, which is an analog of cytosine. It's good for cutaneous mycoses, that is fungal infections of the skin, or in combination with amphotericin B if you have a systemic mycoses. Antiparasitic drugs. A number of parasites out there, malaria being one. Anti-malaria drugs include quinine, chloroquine, primaquine, and mefloquine. Quinine is a natural substance that is derived from the bark of the cinchona tree, and it is the material that's in tonic water. Drinking your tonic used to be part of taking care of malaria. Now, the gin and tonic, actually, the British were in areas that were infested with malaria. Quinine tastes awful. They mixed the quinine water with sugar so that it was sweetened a little bit, mixed it with gin to make it tolerable, and thus we have the gin and tonic. Antiprotozoan drugs, metronidazole, flagyl, quinacrine, some sulfonamides and tetracyclines. These we've heard of as antibacterials, but they also work against protozoans. Now, anti-helminthic drugs. Helminth is a worm, and while these are not microorganisms, they are still infectious agents that cause problems for us. So it's good to be aware of and since we're talking about control of these organisms, it's good to go ahead and talk about this. What they can do is immobilize, disintegrate, or inhibit the metabolism of these worms. They've got to be careful with these. If there is a worm and it gets destroyed and it breaks up and it floats through the bloodstream, it could cause an embolism. This is a big concern actually in veterinary applications because of heartworms. An animal can be treated for heartworms, and if the worms break down too rapidly, portions of them can travel through the bloodstream, lodge in the lungs, and cause pulmonary emboli, which can kill the animal. Examples of these are mebendazole, thiabendazole. These are both broad spectrum. They inhibit the function of microtubules, which are involved in movement. Also interferes with glucose utilization and disables the worms. There's pyrantel and piperazine, which paralyze muscles of the worms again, so that they cannot move. And niclosamide, which destroys scolix. Scolix is a structure that allows these worms to attach to parts of the body. Antiviral drugs. There are a number of ways that these can work. They can block penetration into the host cell, that is, keep the virus from ever getting into an organism. They can block transcription or translation. So once the virus is inside the cell, it can block the activities there. These are nucleotide analogs, actually. Acyclovir, also known as Zovirax, very effective against the herpes virus. It is in topical forms and in pill form. Topical form isn't super effective. It is better to take it as a prophylactic treatment if you are prone for herpes outbreaks. Ribavirin was a guanine analog. It's good against hemorrhagic fevers, other infections. AZT is a thymine analog, and you've probably heard of it being used in conjunction with HIV infections. So all of these are going to block transcription or translation. Other things that these can do, antivirals can do, is prevent maturation of the viral particles. So there are protease inhibitors. Again, protease inhibitors are used with HIV. In fact, HIV infections are treated with a variety of drugs that have to be taken at specific times and specific sequences to be effective. But the protease inhibitors will break down or inhibit the breakdown of proteins. Interferon, which is a substance that's actually produced by our cells when there is a viral infection. And so virally infected cells will release interferon, which notifies surrounding cells that there is a virus out there that may want to get in, and it will block the activity of the cells in terms of bringing in the viral particles. And with that, we have covered the various other drug categories. Last presentation in this series covers mechanisms of drug resistance, and we will pick up on that in another presentation. So, thank you very much.